It's time for another colour study, but this time I thought I'd go for something maybe a little bit more tricky. We're going to be looking at gold, but with a little bit of extra just to add a bit of a twist. Hi everyone, it's Jane here. Thank you for watching my video today, and if you are new, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I am going to be continuing on my colour study series that I've been working my way through over the past couple of months. If you're interested in seeing any of the other colours I've done, if you go to my actual channel and look on the playlists, there is a playlist called Colour Studies where you will find all the videos I've previously made doing the different colour studies. There's quite a few now, so we're getting through my list. I've still got, I think, about 5 still on my list to go. So if you can think of any that I haven't already done or that maybe are a little bit more unusual, do pop it in the comments below and let me know what other colours you might want to see. So today we're going to go for gold. But not just gold. I thought gold on its own might be a little bit, I don't like to say bland because gold isn't bland, but you know what I mean. If you've got too many different golds just on a page, it's not really going to give you that contrast and variation that you need. So I have also popped in amber. Now I've said amber, I don't know whether I really meant amber when I've picked up the colours. I picked a Fossilised amber ink pad, and I picked a golden yellow oil pastel, and we've also got an yellow ochre pen. So I've got a few different sort of versions of amber / ochre that I think would sort of meet the brief still, but you know, add that little bit of extra contrast. But because I've had to really have a good look at what products I had that were gold, it's meant that I've got out some different things that I would normally maybe use in these sort of colour studies. Now, for anybody who hasn't seen one of my colour studies before, mine is a little bit different in that it's a mixed media colour study. I'm not just looking at one particular product. I'm not looking at all the golds in watercolour. I'm looking at gold across the range of different mediums. So there, you will see here, there are lots of different mediums. And what I will be doing is I will be swatching out, and I've got 12. I've already done my little circles. I thought I'd go circles because I thought golden coins. There you go. And then on this page, which is covered up at the moment because I've already gridded it out and covered it up just to keep it clean, I will be doing an art journal page using these mediums. So this part I will be doing in real time. So I'll swatch it in real time and talk you through it. And then the art journal page I will speed up as a time lapse, but I will do a voiceover explaining what I'm doing. So I will put about here on the video at what point the actual project starts, so that if afterwards you wanted to come back and re-watch that, or you wanted to watch it in 2 halves, you could do that. And I will also pop that down in the description box. If ever you want to know what I've used, I also put that down in the description box. I will put a list of what I've used for the products. I will not put links to these products because a lot of these are older products. Some might not even be available anymore, but I'd rather you were using what you have in your stash. But if you want to get an idea of the sorts of things I use, the list will be there. Sometimes I will list other things, so like things like stencils, stamps, that I think are a bit more individual, a bit more not exclusive. I can't think of what the word I'm trying to think of, but ones that maybe you won't find as easily. But again, use what you have, because I'm sure that if I'm using a flowery stencil, you would have some kind of flowery stencil, or you could use an alternative. So I will put those in the description box. Any links I provide are not affiliated, so please do look around. Don't just go from my links. And always remember, please, that I am based in the UK, so a lot of the links I provide are going to be UK based links. So without further ado, I will get started with some swatching. Now I've already written in, and I've started off with acrylic paint at the top. I'm going to move these to the side, I think, so that they're not all in my way, otherwise it might get a little bit muddly. So the acrylic paint I've gone for is just one that I happen to have. It's from HobbyCraft, which is a big craft store in the UK. It is not a very expensive paint, so it's not probably a professional grade paint or anything like that, but it does for what I want to use it for. So let's grab a little paintbrush. No, we want a bigger paintbrush now. I think we'll have this one. And I'm just going to take this big blob of paint off the top. This happens because acrylic paint is basically a plastic. Some people do keep all these little bits and then use them in mixed media projects, but I'm afraid I don't do that. So this is my gold acrylic paint. Oops, I may have put a bit too much down for that. Let's just spread it around a bit. So acrylic paints can be opaque, they can be semi-translucent, semi-opaque, they can be more transparent, and they can be watered down. Now I am thinking about doing a video where we look at the differences and similarities between watercolours and acrylics and the different ways in which we can use them. So if that's something you think would be interesting to watch, again, do please let me know in the comments. So I'm going to wipe that off a little bit and then popping it in the water to keep it clean. So there we go, that's quite nice and thick. The next one I've got is pigment powder. Now, I have lots of different pigment powders. This is the one I had that was more of a gold. This is a Pretty Gets Gritty one. It's a Pretty Explosion powder. It's called Apollo, but I don't think this one is made anymore. I think it was one that was discontinued. So pigment powders are basically powdered colour. So this has got mica in it, which is what a lot of it's given it the gold. Now I sort of don't want, you can use your pigment powders in different ways. I think what I'm going to do to start with is I'm just going to make it into a bit of a paint, because you can make them into a paint. So let's just pop some water in there. I put some powder in there. Now you're probably thinking that's not gold, but the pigments are made of, the powders are made up of lots of different pigments, but if I mix it together, all those pigments join together and we've got a gold. Now this is going to be not as sort of thick as the acrylic paint, so I'm going to put that there. Now what I can also show you is what could happen. I'm just going to wipe that off with my same bit of tissue. Don't waste another bit of tissue. Just wipe that off of there. But rather than sprinkle onto this one, let me grab another piece of card separately. Sorry about the crinkling of that. And I'm going to spritz it first. I'm going to do it over here to hopefully not make such a mess. And so what I want to do is I want to wet my card first, and I'm going to sprinkle my powders on, and this is where you get the explosion part. So this is where you will see that it's not just gold in here, but when you mix, you know, colours are made often of all different sort of colours are made of all other colours quite often. So with this one you can see the different pigments in there. So what I will do is I will then let that dry. I will punch a circle out of it, and I'll add it into my pigment powder swatch as well, so that we can see how the different ways. But the more you mix it up, the more it's going to be just gold. But if you leave it to split, you'll see those different colours in there. So I'll pop that one over there to dry. The next one is ink. Now I've got the Spectrum Noir ink here. This is a watercolour ink. Yes, it does say on there watercolour. I do also have some of the Winsor & Newton gold inks, which I use quite a lot, but I thought because I don't really show this one that much, I'd go with this one. I'm going to give it a shake, because generally to make gold in things you are going to have to add in something like a mica powder to make it have that metallic look. So this is the Spectrum Noir Gold. I don't know if they ever have names. They've got numbers. This says 70. Yep, 70. So let's get a bit of that on there. So you can see it's thicker than the pigment powder, but obviously nowhere near as thick as the acrylic paint. Oh, that's nice. I'd rather like that. There we go. So that's the ink. And unlike, you know, when you have your just plain coloured acrylic watercolour inks, this is a lot thicker. This is because it's got mica in it. Let me just give my brush a wipe. I'll just leave it there for a second. The next one is mica powder. So talking about when we put add mica powder into other things. This is actual mica powder, and I'm going to tap it down because it is quite dusty. Now, mica powders, I think some come with binders in them, some don't. I'm not sure about this one. So what I am going to do is, rather than actually just mix it with something and add it down, I mean, you can mix this into lots of things. You could mix this into, you know, a glue to get more of a gluey glaze. The only thing is, when you mix mica into things like texture paste and things, the texture paste coats the shininess, so you lose the shine. So it's not really ideal for mixing in with lots, you know, things that are really gloopy. But I am going to use my VersaMark. Now, you may have seen this used with embossing powder a lot, but you can also use it with things like your pan pastels, and you can use it with your mica powders. You can't use it with glitters. Glitters are too heavy, so it has to, you know, if you've got a glittery embossing powder, that's fine, because when you heat it, you're melting the powder, so the glitter is sticking in the powder. But if you're just adding glitter, it's not strong enough. You need a proper glue pad to do that. This isn't strong enough to hold that, but it is strong enough to hold things that are quite dusty. So things like your mica powders, things like your pan pastel. So let's grab my good old Maker Mark set, which I always use for these because there is one that's quite a solid stamp in here, which I will then pop in the middle. So let's grab a block. So VersaMark. Now, if you buy a new one of these, it doesn't look like this. This is just filthy dirty. It is a clear, sticky ink. It's sort of a bit like glycerin or something like that, I would say. Some people do use glycerin to create similar effects, but I'm not sure. I don't know what the actual makeup is of this, so I wouldn't say to add it to your pads at all. Right, so damp that one down. Oh, it's got a bit of pinkiness to it from the oh, I've obviously used quite a bit of this one. Right, and then you need a little brush. So I'll just take a little brush and I just gently go over where I've stamped with the VersaMark. You can put more on than you need if you want, but you don't need to add too much. You just need a tiny bit. Then put that lid on so I don't spill that everywhere. And then when you're happy, just brush off the excess, and then the mica powder is sticking to the ink, so hopefully you can see the shine on that. Right, now we're getting into some, these were very, very metallic-y golds, which is what you think of when you're thinking gold. However, when you're going for watercolours, you can have colours that say they're gold in a slightly different sort of colour, I suppose you'd say. So the first one I've got here is Daniel Smith. So this is Daniel Smith watercolour, and this is Quinacridone gold. Now I absolutely love this colour, and I thought this would be nice because this is going to give us a little bit of a different tone. So this won't have the metallic in it, unless any has come over from the mica powder. This is not metallic. This is just a beautiful watercolour. Let's put a little bit more on this side so we can see it really when it gets dark. So you can get quite a deep sort of gold going on there, and then going over. There we go. So that's the Daniel Smith. No, it's not. Do you know what I've gone and done? That's the core. That's the core Quinacridone gold. So these are now the wrong way around. This one is the Daniel Smith. This is the Aussie red gold. Oh my goodness. Never mind. So this is Aussie red gold from Daniel Smith. Now this has got a bit more of an orangey tone, I would say. So Aussie Red Gold from Daniel Smith, and that's Quinacridone Gold from Court. I'm just going to get a pen. I knew I would do this. And we're just going to do a little arrow to show they're not that way round, they're that way. So this one is Aussie Red Gold, and this one is Quin Gold. And as they dry, you will, oops, let's put a bit more of that back down. As they dry, you will see already, you can already see the difference between the two there. I think in the Daniel Smith I have also got, I think, the deep Quinacridone Gold, but I thought I would use those ones for that one. So there we go. Oh, they're very bright. Well, that one's very bright indeed. The next one I've got down is acrylic marker. So I have got my gold Posca pen. This is a 3M. These ones need shaking, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of a pump. And I'm just going to do... Now, even within gold acrylic markers, you do get different colours of gold. The gold that's in these markers, I find, is very much quite a bright yellowy gold, whereas the gold in the Copic Acrylic, I think, is this gold here. It's a much duller, not a duller, but a more muted gold. So it's just, it depends on what it is that you want, you want from your colours. So this next one is Fossilised Amber. So I thought, we have to have some contrast, otherwise it's just all going to look the same. So this is Archival ink, but it's in a distress colour. So we'll use the same stamp, and we will pop that in there. There we go. So that's got more of a sort of a yellowish tone to it, but I still feel it fits with the colour family. What we got next? Metallic watercolour. Now I've got a whole set of these. These are the Prima marketing, or marketed under Art Philosophy by Prima, and this is a set. It has 6 proper metallics, and it has 6 other colours. But I thought, I thought these ones here, I think I would say up to there. That one I'm probably pushing it, am I, with the gold? I don't know. I'm thinking that I might go with this one because that's a slightly different gold maybe to the others. Let's have a look. Let's see. So we could do 2 on here and just... Well, actually, I think I quite like that one. That's quite nice. This isn't a much more, I would say, it's a much more pale gold, isn't it? It's more sort of an enchanted gold almost. I like that one actually. That's very different to that. So I like that that's very different. So that's the metallic watercolour. Then we have got Gelato, and I have actually got one that is... Hold on, this is Butterscotch. I thought I'd actually picked out gold. Well, we'll go with this one now because that's the one we've got. So I know it's not pure gold. I might get the gold out as well. So this is the Butterscotch, which I thought, I just went by the outside. I didn't actually look at the name. That would have required me to put my glasses on. Right, let me just see, what have we got that's... Is it this one? This is the actual gold. Let's just have a little look just to... Oh yeah, and you can water these out as well. See, that's got much more of a metallic look. Oh, do you know what? Shall we cheat? Well, it's not cheating. It's my thing, isn't it? I can do what I like. Let's have them both. Let's just get as well, just to show you that you can water these out as well. So that's then got these sort of look, hasn't it, as well? So I quite like that. We've got Ecoline watercolour markers. Now this is not gold, this is deep ochre. But I was looking at the cap and I thought that is very much been put down as a gold cap. So let's put that down there, and then we'll add some water. Oops, I've got water all over my thing. And just water that out a bit as well. Too much water everywhere. Oops, it's getting it everywhere now. There we go. And last but not least, oh, I didn't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it. It's an oil pastel. It's the Mungyo Gelato. There is nothing wrong with these oil pastels. Oil pastels are lovely for people who like oil pastels. I think I have discovered I'm not really keen, mostly because I just don't like having to seal them. So this one is actually called Golden Yellow. So I thought that might be, you know, quite a nice one to add on at the end, because you would need to do it right at the end to have it as a final accent. It is a lovely golden yellow, I'll say that. So we'll put that one there. So those are the 12 mediums, 13 I suppose if you're including now that I've got 2 different gelatos. The 12 mediums that I've chosen to represent gold / amber. And on this side I can remove that now, already made a grid with my blue painter's tape. So I thought it would be quite nice to actually do whole swatches of different ones, different of the mediums, the watery ones, and then I can use the other products like the paint to do maybe some stenciling right across, and some of the marker and the oil pastel to make marks, and then remove the tape and have a lovely grid effect there. So if you have enjoyed this video so far, do please stick around and see what I make on this page. But if you are enjoying it, do please give a thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, it would be fabulous if you could subscribe as well. And I will see you in the next part, but also hopefully in the next video. So I decided to start by putting some watercolour down first, and I've got 12 squares, so I thought it would be a good idea to use 6 of the products that were sort of watercolourish based and colour 2 squares each with each product. So I'm starting with the, I think it's it's the Core Quinacridone Gold. I'll get this the right way around this time. So the Core Quinacridone Gold, and I'm trying to sort of put them down in different ways. So I remembered after I'd done the first square that Core is very flowy, so the second square I actually put the water down first. Then I'm going in with the Daniel Smith Aussie Red Gold, and again I started by just putting the first one down sort of straight down, and then the next one I sort of put the water down and added drops in. I was just trying to get some different effects. Then I'm going in with the Prima Metallic Gold. A little bit of the Quinacridone Gold also sort of was on the tape, so it went into the colour a little bit, but I didn't mind. It sort of gave it a different tone. And so then I'm painting one further down. So I'm trying to separate the two that I'm doing in the same medium sort of away from each other, and also making sure that I'm getting a mix of the darker and the lighter across the page, so that it sort of gives a varied effect. Now I'm using the Spectrum Noir watercolour ink. Now the first one I found it was quite thick, so I put more water down, and the second one decided to dot it in to see if I could get a different sort of effect. And I did dip my wet paintbrush back into the ink, but as it's a water-based product, I wasn't too worried. But obviously if you don't want to add, like, be diluting your ink, don't do that. Just use a dry brush, or tip it out into maybe a palette. Now I'm using the Ecoline watercolour markers. So on the second square with this, I thought I would try adding a lot more colour to the top to see if it makes a difference. And you can get a deeper colour by adding more of the pen down. And then finally, I wanted to add some of the pigment powder, so I mixed it up first this time and then added it onto the squares. Again, I'm sort of adding it in little bits in the second one to see if I can get a different effect. And it did give a different effect. Right, I let that all dry, and then I'm using my Make Mark stamp set with the Fossilised Amber. I started by just putting a little bit of the sort of general pattern in the background. It was quite a fine line, so it didn't show up that much, but I didn't mind it. It's just sort of like adding a little bit of interest. And then I'm going in with this bigger circle. Now, obviously, if you're going over things with mica in, it can affect when you're stamping over them. So that is something to be aware of, because it's got that shine to it, and it's like a dusty sort of product, isn't it? It's like a powder. It does affect your stamping a little bit. So I wasn't too worried. I'm just getting down as many shapes as I can, and then I went in with another shape to go to just make a bit of difference as well. And I was trying to make sure that every square had something in. Now I'm using the VersaMark to add in some of the more solid stamp, because I want to use the mica powder. Now I started off, it wasn't really showing up very much. I did realise after a couple of attempts that I just really wasn't putting enough powder on. So you do need to really sort of put enough powder on for it to be going into that ink. Also, I did find as well that it was better when I stamped it and then put it on, not giving the ink time to dry out too much. You'll see at the top, on that top left, when I added a lot more powder on, it really did cling and start standing out. So I'm just adding a few of those. Some of them didn't really show up very well, some showed up better, but you know, again, it's just building those layers on the page and having fun with the mediums. Then I wanted to use the gelatos, and I started by putting them inside the big circles and just trying to sort of smudge them out, but I found that it wasn't really smudging that much. I do find things like gelatos and distress crayons work so much better on a gessoed surface. So I went in with a little bit of water because they are water reactive, and that helped a lot. Now I wanted to get that acrylic paint in, so I'm going with the Sunken Atlantis. I don't know why this drew me. And then afterwards, I was thinking maybe in my mind I was going for, you know, like Lost Treasure, Atlantis. And also because it was a circle, and I'd done the circles for the swatches, and I already had circles in the background, I just felt that it went really nicely. So I'm using my stipply brush from, I think that's a Faber one, and the Sunken Atlantis, I should say, is from Lemon Creation. And I'm just sort of, I was dabbing on the paint, and then right at the end when I had hardly any paint left, I was just squiggling it through a little bit. Then finally I wanted to add those finishing touches. So I've got the Posca pen, the 3M, and I just went for some random dots. I wasn't quite sure. I was going to put some highlights in some of the circles, and I thought, no, I'm just going to go all over, and then some big circles just to add some extra interest. And finally the oil pastel. So I will have to seal this page with the Sennelier sealant afterwards, just to make sure that that doesn't rub off. I'm not sure with the mica powder whether that needs sealing. I would probably not worry too much if it's in my journal, but certainly if you're doing something that is going to be handled quite a lot, then possibly the mica powder would need sealing, so that just doesn't rub off on people's hands. And then that final bit of removing the tape. So thank you ever so much for watching my video today. If you have enjoyed, do please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And I will see you next time. Bye.